I was born in Lebanon, a small country the size of Rhode Island on the eastern Mediterranean Sea. Its capital is Beirut, once known as the Paris of the Middle East and celebrated for its freedoms, its democracy, and its very rich culture and heritage. Lebanon stands as one of the sole countries in the Middle East where key government officials, such as the president and the commander of the armed forces, must be Christian. Sadly, by 1948, with the influx of Palestinian refugees, followed by the relocation of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, better known as the PLO, in 1970 from Jordan, the once peaceful nation of Lebanon had collapsed into anarchy. The PLO, a few years earlier, had destabilized Jordan and tried to assassinate the king of Jordan, King Hussein, twice. Eventually, the Jordanian military prevailed and defeated the PLO and forced their expulsion. After relocating to Lebanon, the PLO began launching relentless attacks on Israel, disregarding Lebanese sovereignty. Palestinian refugee camps, some built on Christian church lands, were transformed into heavily armed, lawless areas, leading to the harassment, kidnappings, and violence against surrounding Christian communities. Within one generation from arriving to Lebanon as refugees, Palestinians had created a state within a state, and they began treating their hosts, specifically Lebanese Christians, as second-class citizens. When the civil war finally erupted in April 1975, Palestinian militias invaded defenseless Christian towns and villages. They indiscriminately bombed civilian areas with heavy artillery and rockets, unleashing a wave of car bombs, sniper attacks, and kidnappings and torture. Then they resorted to committing massacres against the civilian population, which eventually triggered similar retaliatory actions from the Christian militias. In January 1976, the Damour massacre was one of the largest massacres of the war. PLO, along with their allies, entered the town and executed men, women, children, the elderly in cold blood. Women were gang raped in the streets. Men and children were shot in cold blood. Even unarmed civilians that were running into churches were all executed in front of everyone. When the Christian militia launched their counteroffensive against the PLO camps, they discovered that the PLO were heavily armed, and numerous reports later on confirmed that they were blocking their own civilians from escaping or leaving. Some of them were executed within the camp in order to garner international favor and support for their cause. Later on, the Christian militia were able to prevail, and Israel invaded in 1982, clearing out many of the refugee camps and once and for all disbanding them from Beirut. After the bloody Lebanese civil war, many Palestinians moved to various countries, to include the Gulf country of Kuwait. In 1990, after Saddam Hussein had invaded Kuwait, many Palestinians living there had supported his troops and helped collaborate with him. By 1991, when Saddam had lost Kuwait and was pushed out by Allied forces, over 200,000 Palestinians were also kicked out of Kuwait for aiding and abetting this brutal dictator. The 1993 Oslo Accord and the establishment of the Palestinian Authority did very little over the years to help and support the Palestinian people. Billions of dollars were poured in to help the innocent people, but instead of using the money to build infrastructure and to make a better life for everyone, this money was used to make the people at the top very wealthy, and also to buy weapons and arm militant Islamic groups to launch wars against Israel. In 2005, Hamas was elected to be the authority over the Palestinians. By 2007, they began preparing for war. On October 7, 2023, they launched an attack against Israel, brutally massacring over 1,200 people. And today, the Israel-Gaza war is igniting a fire across the entire region, which can easily lead to a world war.